welcome to Shell Point Today for Monday, August 15th. I'm Mary Kay Grimaldi.
And I'm Rich Nation. Thanks for joining us today. On today's show, we will get the big scoop on the Larson Pavilion from Doug Potts, the Director of Long-Term Care, and Carol Clark, Director of Outpatient Services, will talk about the Chronic Care Management Program.
But first, we want to remind you about the exciting Health Connection class, Skin That Glows at Any Age. Held in the Oak Room of the Woodlands tomorrow, this is your opportunity to experience great skin care with cleansing, exfoliating, moisturizing, and more. You'll be introduced to some great quality products to put you on the right path to healthier looking skin. The experience starts at 1 p.m. for those who have signed up.
Well, it's summertime, like you need me to tell you that. But you may need to be reminded that it's also time for summertime bingo. Hey, did you ever sing that song as a kid? There was a farmer, had a dog, and Bingo was his name. Oh, B-I-N-G-O, 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 and Bingo was his name. Oh. Bingo in the Social Center at 1:15 tomorrow.
After summer comes the fall, which is just around the corner. And that means you'll be getting the Academy of Lifelong Learning's fall semester brochure. Look for it in your mail this Wednesday.
Well, Mary Kay, fall may be approaching soon, but it's still hot enough outside that cooling off with a scoop of delicious ice cream wouldn't be out of the question. The Ice Cream Social at the Larson Pavilion is coming up, and Doug Potts, Director of Long-Term Care, is standing by to tell us all about it.
Hi, I'm Doug Potts, the Director of Long-Term Care at the Pavilion. I would like to invite you to join us at the Larson Pavilion on August 23rd at 2 o'clock for an ice cream social. It is a great opportunity to meet our amazing team and learn about the many services available to you at the Pavilion. There will be a short presentation discussing our rehabilitation unit, long-term care services, and memory unit, as well as the hospice program. We will be offering a tour of the rehab center, including our aqua therapy pool and occupational therapy suite. Please join us at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, August 23rd, and meet our Pavilion team while enjoying a dish of Love Boat ice cream. Space is limited, so please RSVP to Randa at 415-5432. Hope to see you there.
Recently, you probably received a letter in the mail about the Chronic Care Management Program. Mary Kay recently sat down with Carol Clark, Director of Outpatient Services, to find out more about this service being offered and how you may be able to benefit from it. We begin with the first in a two-part interview that continues tomorrow. Here's the first part with Mary Kay.
A few weeks ago, all residents received a letter via campus mail from Shell Point Health System about the Chronic Care Management Program. I'm here today with Carol Clark, Director of Outpatient Services at the J. Howard Wood Medical Center at Shell Point, to learn more about this service and how it can benefit you. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you, Mary.
Great. Well, I'm glad to have you here today to tell us a little bit more about what is Medicare's Chronic Care Management Program and how can it benefit our Shell Point residents?
Well, it's a long story, but the short end of the long story is that for the last 4 to 5 years, Medicare has actually been reducing payment to primary care physician group practices by 2% a year. So, like many people in our country, we've been trying to do more with less. And finally, about January of 2015, Medicare decided, the real expensive part of our program is hospitalizations and rehospitalizations. So if we could just have the people in primary care work a little harder at keeping people out of the hospital,
of course,
that would be worth a little reward. Well, we looked at it, and as we do sometimes, we watch things before we just jump in. And the longer it went on over the last year, the more I sort of decided, this is really money on the table that we could be having because the Shell Point standard already is to take such good care of residents that we keep them out of the hospital. But if there's a little bit of reimbursement we could have for the hard work that we already do, maybe we should look into how we do that.
So with the extra work that we're doing in caring for our residents. It's part of chronic care management.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about some of the chronic conditions or chronic illnesses that residents here at Shell Point might have that qualify for this Medicare service.
Well, actually, it's just any number of chronic conditions, and it's difficult in this age group to find someone who does not have a chronic illness, although we do have some really healthy folks who don't. But the typical chronic illnesses are high blood pressure, diabetes, osteoporosis, Parkinson's disease, and gastric reflux, kidney disease, swelling of the legs, and anemia, and memory impairment or depression.
And I understand regardless of whether a resident is on medication for any of these conditions, there still would be a care plan developed that would, in conjunction with your clinicians there at the medical center, help the residents manage those symptoms?
Yes, and sometimes it's just a matter of having blood work done at a certain interval, or if it's memory impairment or depression, it's having a check from behavioral health at a certain interval, or it might even be cooperation from resident services case management, where they simply check on a person who's struggling but doesn't need to really be in the physician's office.
So as a resident, what steps do I need to take to A, sign up for the service, and B, continue to participate with your staff at the medical center to be able to qualify for this chronic care management program?
Well, the option is really open. Residents could not sign the paper, and we would not change anything we're doing. But if they sign the paper, it allows Medicare to give us that little bit of reimbursement for the work that we do. But to be honest with you, we hope that we'll always do things a little bit better, that we'll continue to look for process improvements, regardless of whether we receive a little reimbursement or not. But it just makes it a little easier when you have to replace staff or replace equipment, if there's just a little more to work with. So we're just trying to take an opportunity of what is rightfully ours.
Yep. And this paper that you're referring to would be the application form that registers a resident for this chronic care management program, correct?
Yes.
And then they would simply complete the document, sign it really, select the specific clinician that they prefer to work with at the Shell Point Medical Center, although all of the clinicians are available for their services. But there's also another individual that they'll be working with closely to document all of this work that we're doing?
Yes. As you might expect, we're not going to be able to accept funds unless we can verify.
Correct.
So the person that probably all the residents have met at some point, or at least talked with on the phone, is Armando Faith. And Armando has many, many skills, but one of his really valuable skills is in data processing and designing spreadsheets. So I've asked him to come up with a monitoring method so that we can actually keep a good record for the minutes that we spend, so that we have to document 20 minutes per month for the people that we'll accept funds for.
Okay.
So he'll be helping us keep track of that, and he'll also be meeting with folks once they have a service from the physician, and perhaps they need transportation to complete that referral. Armando will take them into a room and help them get transportation to a consultant or get the appointment. Or he might just sit with someone who's a little bit confused after getting out of the hospital with, what is this paper, what is that paper? So he'll kind of be handling the nuts and bolts of the program under my direction.
Right. So that's wonderful. It seems like there's lots of resources there at the medical center that will help our residents who do have these chronic conditions and are looking for an ongoing way of managing them.
We'll have more of that interview for you tomorrow, but right now, here's all of today's happenings, menus, and Village Church connections, right after this listening to the Words preview from David Heilenstein.
The Olympic Games in Rio are the inspiration for this week's edition of Listening to the Words. Every 4 years, the countries of the world come together to share their sports accomplishments. First, I am reading excerpts from the book The Boys in the Boat, about the University of Washington rowing team that completed breathtakingly in the groundbreaking 1936 Olympics in Germany. Then a New York Times article by N.R. Kleinfeld titled Mute and Alone, about a homeless man who lost his voice and earned the kindness of his neighbors. Then, from a delightful little book Pamela Minton titles Lessons of the Spider, a lesson she calls Be Gentle, Be Strong. Do you recall Ramadevi Nina's story on this program a couple of weeks ago about saving the life of a drowning bee? On this week's program, that pollinating creature buzzes off the page in an article written by Shell Point landscape manager Steve Morton. This is David Howenstein inviting you to tune to Shell Point's Channel 12 any of the next 7 days to listen to this 30-minute program. Except on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when you can catch replays of the village church service 3 times each of those 2 days, you can listen to this week's Listening to the Words program starting at the top and then again at the bottom of each hour all week. As always, thank you for listening to the Words.
Hello, welcome to the Happening segment of Shell Point TV. I'm Bev Chandley.
And I'm Caitlin Vanscoy.
And we're going to go over the activities that we offer for you here today at Shell Point. We're going to start with 8 o'clock. You'll find men's round robin tennis down at the Woodlands. Also at 8 o'clock, we have pickleball at the game courts behind the Resident Activity Center. Also at 8 o'clock, we have the Ringling Circus Museum and Museum of Art field trip going out. We leave at the island at 8 o'clock, 8:10 for the Woodlands, and 8:20 for Eagles Preserve in the estuary. You'll find virtual bowling at the Resident Activity Center at 8:45. And at 9:15, we have billiards also at the Resident Activity Center. The lollygagger paddlers will be heading out from the kayak storage at 9:15. And we have 9:15 pottery with instruction available down in the tunnel. Men's match play tennis will be going on at 10 o'clock at the Woodlands. Also at 10 o'clock, the Susie Q heads to Matanzas on the Bay. You do need to sign up for those Susie Q trips. At 10:30, the Disciple Men's Bible Study group will be in the game room of the Woodlands. And the table tennis playing clinic will be in the Tarpon room at 10:45. And 11:30, we have a Health Connections class, Bar Ball Edition. That's in the Health Club, and it's currently full. Now here's Caitlin. She's going to tell you what's happening later in the day.
Thank you, Bev. We start at 12 o'clock with Mahjong. That'll be at the Cove at the estuary. That's followed by 12:45 Zumba Fitness in the Health Club. Sign up is required. Samba, the card game, will be played in the Resident Activity Center at 1:15. And 3 o'clock is the time for a Health Connections class. That's Pilates Stretch in the Health Club. Our last Monday activity is at 6:30, and that's Duplicate Bridge in the game room of the Woodlands. Well, we're so happy to see you here today. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.
Menus for Monday. The Crystal Room is closed now through September 4th. In the Island Cafe, the sandwich special is a meatball hoagie with fries for $7.75, and the Palm Grill is closed on Mondays. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
Hi, I'm Scott Eding, the employee chaplain, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Village Church. And welcome to Village Church Connections. I've been teaching a Bible study with a group of men who are managers at Shell Point. And we've been studying the book of Acts. And Acts gives the history of the early church right after Jesus died and then when he was resurrected. That's about where Acts begins. And while we're doing that, I started to say, I'm really curious. All the other letters in the New Testament, when were they written? Where was Paul again when he wrote a letter to Galatia? Where was he when he wrote some to Ephesus? When did Peter write his letters? Where was he? And I started to do a little bit of research and put some of that information together. And what comes out of it is what you realize is that while Acts is giving the history of the church, there's a whole lot more happening than possibly could have been written. Now, I've had people say to me, I think people made things up about Jesus, and the church kind of exaggerated it. But when you study and do a little bit of research and look into how many people were involved, how many different places they went to and where they lived, and all the interconnectedness of relationships, the letter writing and people going back and forth, you realize, if there was some kind of conspiracy, this was a huge, huge conspiracy. There's just no way anybody could pull something like that off. And the benefits of the conspiracy, humanistically speaking, a lot of them were, picked on, persecuted, even put to death for what they did. So it's an amazing exercise in faith to look at some of the history of the beginnings of the church. And that's what Acts does for us. So I just want to inspire you a little bit, encourage you, become a bit curious. How did the church begin? Just what was going on? Where were the cities? Who was where? What was happening? And as you do, and you read through the book of Acts, you say, this is clearly God moving people to do things they wouldn't have otherwise done. It's an amazing story. So I hope you're inspired to study again the book of Acts. This is Scott Eding once again on behalf of the Village Church. We're so glad you joined us for Connections, and may you have a blessed day.
Thanks for joining us for today's program. On tomorrow's show, Director of Facility Operations Paul Yakovich will go over some guidelines for the new northbound cart path between the Woodlands and the Island on Shell Point Boulevard. Also, I'll continue with my interview with Carol Clark about the Chronic Care Management Program. Until then, this has been Shell Point Today for Monday, August 15th. I'm Mary Kay Grimaldi.
And I'm Rich Nation. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to being with you again tomorrow.